Modern society attempts to solve distraction with complex systems and constant biohacking routines. Yet professionals are more anxious, fragmented, and fragile than ever. The systems are failing because they ignore human biological reality. In the wild, there is no imposter syndrome. There is no anxiety or hesitation. An animal operates on pure, undistracted survival programming. It executes its actions with absolute physical focus. Thousands of years ago, the ancient Indian strategist Chanakya observed this. In Chapter 6 of his masterwork, the Chanakya Niti, he designed a manual for extracting this primal programming and uploading it into human behavior. His master thesis is laid out in verse 15. He isolates exactly 20 specific virtues extracted from 6 distinct animals: the lion, the crane, the cock, the crow, the dog, and the ass. Chanakya's framework functions as a strict biological algorithm. Coding these 20 behaviors into your routine is a mandatory requirement for surviving and dominating high-stakes, hostile environments. We begin by analyzing the physics of offensive action. Success requires precise management of energy allocation. Corporate culture encourages multitasking and hedging bets to mitigate risk. Biologically, this is a fatal vulnerability. Splitting focus diffuses power and guarantees a weak impact across all fronts. This telemetry graph illustrates Chanakya's first rule of action from verse 16, the lion's law of singular execution. When a lion initiates a hunt, it does not hold back 50% of its energy in case the attempt fails. It commits 100% of its biological power to a single, violent objective, completely ignoring the possibility of failure. The application for the modern strategist is total execution. Whether you are building an empire or completing a mundane daily duty, it requires absolute, terrifying commitment. Half measures breed failure, but aggression without timing is just noise. Uncalibrated force leaves you exposed, which necessitates strict psychological restraint. To balance the lion's ferocity, Chanakya introduces verse 17, the crane's law of calculated patience. A crane will stand absolutely motionless in freezing water for hours. It entirely suppresses hunger, discomfort, and all external distractions, waiting for the exact microsecond a fish swims within striking distance. This translates directly to extreme emotional control. The strategist must master their impulses and filter out the noise of market volatility and office politics. Offensive execution only achieves dominance when you calculate the precise intersection of time, place, and ability. You strike only when the environment aligns and victory is mathematically guaranteed. With offensive parameters set, the focus shifts to defensive architecture and the navigation of hostile terrain. Verse 18 outlines the daily discipline required to hold territory, extracting 4 specific virtues from the cock or rooster. The first 2 rules dictate strict command of your personal parameters. You dictate your own operational schedule by waking at the proper time, and you take a bold, combative stance the exact moment your boundaries are tested. The final 2 rules demand careful resource management. You ensure equitable division of assets to prevent internal mutiny among your ranks, and you secure absolute financial independence by earning your own bread. These 4 traits define the architecture of a sovereign individual. You rely on 0 external entities for daily survival. Independence is non-negotiable. Once sovereign, you must project power outward into the modern corporate environment, a landscape that functions as an inherently predatory ecosystem. This threat assessment matrix outlines the survival mechanisms codified in verse 19, detailing the 5 survival virtues of the crow. This introduces the core behavioral concept of the paranoia of the crow. In high-level corporate warfare, clinical paranoia is a mandatory defense mechanism. Union and privacy requires you to heavily encrypt your closest alliances, keeping your network hidden. Storing away useful items means systematically stockpiling resources and capital long before a crisis hits. The remaining traits, watchfulness and not easily trusting others, form the bedrock of modern counterintelligence. The elite strategist operates under the assumption of constant surveillance. You default to total distrust, and you never take a competitor's words at face value. Execution and counterintelligence create the framework, but sustaining long-term dominance requires enduring severe psychological friction. Verse 20 introduces the 6 virtues of the dog, representing the ultimate loyal lieutenant, qualities you must demand from your inner circle and cultivate within yourself. The core attribute here is supreme biological grit. Specifically, it is the capacity to snap instantly from deep slumber into high alert action the moment a threat or opportunity arises. Operationally, this means maintaining unflinching devotion to your central mission. You must endure long periods of low revenue and zero recognition without breaking focus or abandoning your objective. This endurance culminates in verse 21 with the most unglamorous archetype of survival, the ass. This chart demonstrates the fragile myth of motivation. It shows motivation terminating in a failure state due to external variables. Chanakya explicitly replaces motivation with a duty circuit that loops infinitely. The ass continues to carry its burden, regardless of heat, cold, or exhaustion. You must build the psychological armor required to detach your operational performance entirely from your physical comfort or emotional state. You work when you are tired. You work when conditions are terrible. True empire building is devoid of glamour. It requires finding a dark, quiet contentment purely in the act of bearing a heavy operational burden that breaks average competitors. We now possess all 20 primal variables extracted from the ancient text. Chanakya did not present these traits as a list of isolated productivity hacks. They are engineered to function together as an interlocking, closed-loop biological algorithm. This data model demonstrates how the core pillars combine: the lion's execution, the crane's timing, the crow's paranoia, and the ass's proval endurance lock together into a single structure. When these components lock into place, Chanakya delivers his absolute guarantee, codified in verse 22. Adhering to these 20 virtues provides a mathematical guarantee of absolute invincibility in the world of men.